Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, as promised, I'll be showing you a tutorial on foundation paper piecing, and we'll be making this simple block called an economy block, and these are the supplies you'll need. So a pattern, any pattern will do, a rotary cutter, cutting mat, ruler, and of course your selection of fabric. I also like to use a washable glue. Any glue that's washable will be fine, and then a seam roller. So when you're trimming your blocks, you trim to this outer edge rather than the inner edge. And this type of block, there's lots of different places where you can download this for free online. Okay, I also like to use a light box. Not essential if you're sewing on a sunny day, you can hold it up to a window or anything, but I like the light box. You want to place your template number side down. Okay, and then choose your fabric and add a dab of glue, and then position your fabric however you want. I've chose to try and get this motif in the centre, but if you haven't got any type of pattern that needs to be centred, you don't need to worry too much about that. But here, let me just show you that you can just about see the lines through the fabric with the light box. Now we are going to trim away any excess, so fold over your pattern piece like this, straight on that line that divides number 1 and number 2, and then trim a 1/4 inch away from that edge just with your rotary cutter, and repeat that on all 4 sides. The thing that can be confusing with foundation paper piecing is the orientation of the fabric and the numbers and that type of thing, so I'll try and prompt you in the video which way up the paper needs to be, but you always attach the fabric on the opposite side to where the numbers are printed, and just print the papers at home on your printer with as thin paper as possible. So cheaper paper is better, you don't need any expensive paper. So now we're going to work on number 2, 3, 4 and 5. So here I pre-cut some yellow shapes, but generally speaking I just use scraps like this and then trim it afterwards. So again, numbers down on your light box, fabric up, and position your new piece of fabric directly with the edge of the previous one, and that will give you the 1/4 inch seam. And you just want to fold it back and make sure that your chosen piece of fabric covers number 2 in its entirety, and then take that over to the sewing machine. So hold it with both hands and then number side up, so fabric is underneath everything. Shorten your stitch length, I go to 1.5, and then just sew directly on the line that divides number 1 and number 2. Again, you can't see where the fabric is, but as long as you hold it securely when you're transporting it to the machine, it will be fine. I like to do a back stitch at the beginning and the end. And then you can just fold that fabric back. Use your seam roller here just to give you a nice crisp edge. And then we're going to flip the work over and then fold the next lines and do the same thing again, trim 1/4 inch away. Now with the next piece of fabric, as I said, I pre-cut some triangles. Now you'll soon see that when I try and attach these triangles, they're not actually large enough. So when I sew it in place, it doesn't cover the whole entirety of the square that needs covering, the triangle that needs covering. So you'll see that, and I'll give you an important lesson on unpicking your stitches, because let's be honest, that does happen when you're trying a new technique. It still happens to me now. So as you can see there, it's not covering with enough seam allowance to catch it on the next time, so it always wants to be a 1/4 inch bigger all the way around. I find the easiest way to remove the stitches is actually with a sharp pair of small scissors rather than a seam ripper, because a few times I've actually just gone straight through the paper. So remove all of your stitches and we'll try again. I found that I can only redo that section twice, maybe 3 times at a push, because don't forget your needle is perforating the paper every time you stitch in. So by the time you're redoing your stitches, there's nothing left of the paper in that area. So yeah, you'll get the positioning wrong a couple of times. I've done that, and then from there you'll just be able to adapt from your mistakes, so they say. So here I've had to, I didn't have enough fabric to redo it, so I've had to completely take off all the fabric and use a different yellow. So all I'm doing is reapplying triangle number 2 and then just going round. So you just follow the sequence of the numbers. So you go number 1 first, number 2, number 3, and you just work in the order that the pattern suggests. This is why I've chosen this block, because it's quite an easy block, but it has a really nice effect. But also I feel that once you've learnt the basics of foundation paper piecing, it's a little bit like painting by numbers. You just follow the lines, you do your trimming in the exact same way, and yeah, so this is a really good block to start with, and at the end of the video I'll show you what I made with it. So again, just using your seam roller to make sure you're getting a nice crisp edge, folding everything back directly along the line. You can get special rulers, I think, that will help you fold the papers back, but I haven't found the need for one. But you could use like a card, like a credit card or something, to help fold over the edges. So now we're on to the outer layer. So I've chosen this pink fabric with blue bows on it, and again I'll just fold it over and make sure it covers the desired area. Take it to your sewing machine and just do the same thing. Now when you're trimming the outer fabric, you don't need to fold anything back, you just trim it right to the edge of the papers. You don't need to do it to that inner edge, you just do it right to the edge of the papers. Unless you've got a massive overhang like I have, I usually leave the trimming of the outer blocks until the very end, but I just didn't bother cutting the fabric off because I didn't want to risk not having enough. So I just cut straight from the large piece of fabric that I had. All of the fabrics that I've used in this block is by a company called Rose Garden Patchwork. I'll leave her link to her website down below because her fabric is absolutely amazing. I bought just assorted bags from her, like scrap bags. She hasn't got any in stock at the moment, but she's got lots of different other fabrics available. Now let me show you how to join 2 blocks. So here is 2 of my houses that I've been making, so I'll join these just to show you how to join the blocks, because sometimes for bigger blocks you'll need to join to create the block, or you might make several of the same blocks and want to join them. So what you do is put them right sides together, and then you need to put a pin directly through both corners on the front block and the back block. Put a pin directly through so you know that the corners match. Do the same on both. If your piece is maybe, let's say, 4 inches the block, I'd probably put a pin in the middle as well, just to make sure nothing slips. And then what you want to do is you want to sew directly along that inner edge. So the edge that defines the outside of the block, sew directly along that. And there we are, I've done that. And as you can see, the points perfectly line up. That's what I really like about this technique. It's very easy to get your points lined up and not cut off any of the points like you can do. So there we go. Let's also remove the papers on this. So all you want to do is kind of like break the seal on the middle bit. I've used a small crochet hook just to score the paper, just so I can get underneath. And it's kind of like English paper piecing. You don't remove the papers until you've surrounded it by something else. So with those houses, I hadn't removed the papers because they're not surrounded by anything else. So yeah, just keep it all in there, because then that helps you line up your 1/4 inch seams as well. Some people remove it before, but I think it's quite handy to have that line to sew along when joining your blocks to keep it nice and accurate. And this is why I said cheaper paper is better, because it'll be nice and thin to remove, because when you're sewing you're actually perforating the edge, so thinner paper will come out a little bit easier. And there we go, there is the finished block, and I'll show you what the back looks like close up now. I don't really know if it's messy or neat. I only concern myself with the front. And here is what I made. I made this into a project bag for a knitting project that I've got going at the moment. So I added a yellow border, and then I added 1-inch squares all the way around, and then I added the same yellow on the back. I did a little drawstring tab at the top and a really nice pink inside that matches really well, I think. And I'll give you a little glimpse at my sewing my knitting project. I also like this because you can fold it down and it feels kind of like a bucket. You can still keep your cake of yarn in there to keep it protected. And here is my knitting project that I've recently started. Cough sweets in the knitting bag, as you can probably hear by my voice. The last couple of weeks I have been under the weather. So this is the habitation throw that I've been doing, and I'm knitting it in some Lay Family yarn. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed that and found it helpful.